Hello, YouTube. It's Ian here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we are starting a new comic book by the issue series, which I know I have a bunch of on the channel, and honestly, they don't do that good except for the Conan ones, so maybe I really shouldn't do them at all. But it kind of lined up for me that June on the Range started, and a few weeks before it did, a new comic book in the Western genre-ish, well, it is a Western genre book, but it also has fantasy elements, came out, right? And it's by a team of creators that I quite like, right? So I really felt like it was a good thing to do, right? So the first non-haul, non-TBR, non-ramble video on the channel this month will be a Western comic book issue review in the form of reviewing Ain't No Grave, right? So this is a new series. It's going to be a short mini series. It's going to have 5 issues. And this first issue was a double-sized issue. It's 48 pages. There's no ads in this except for the back, which is great. Very, very nice stuff. It's a big issue, and it really does a lot of stuff for setting up the story, right? It's written by Skottie Young with art by Jorge, who you guys will know if you like Transformers. He's done a series, or he's the one that's currently doing the artwork for the Daniel Warren Johnson series, right after the end of the first arc. But of course, Skottie Young and Jorge Corona have worked together a lot. They're a very good dynamic comic book team, and they've done things like Middle West and I Love What You Did in the Dark, and I think they worked on some of Skottie Young's other stuff as well, right? But I know them mostly from Middle West, and I really like their style there. And I've been wanting to get Twig for a long time. I just haven't done so. But they are working on this really interesting, crazy fantasy Western. And I think that that's awesome, right? I also want to show some love to everyone else that works on this. So Jean-Francois Bolley, I think is how you say that last name, does the lettering. And Nate Patecos does something else that has to do with that, and I can't remember who does what, but they're all on the cover there, which is really nice. And yeah, so this story is interesting because it has kind of 2 stories happening at the same time, right? One of them is our main character Ryder traveling across these, very Western scenes, right? She's walking through a valley, she's walking through a desert, she's walking through these dead trees, she's walking through all of these different things on a great, beautiful black horse. She encounters a family or a pair of people that had this wagon, and the wagon broke, and they're just kind of struggling to survive, and they have an altercation, and then she moves on, and then, she goes through other stuff, right? While at the same time, through these different situations that happen throughout the book, as we see Ryder going somewhere, we don't know where at the beginning until the end. We don't know where she went. We get to see her life right before she was on this journey, right? And so we get to see these really interesting, flashbacks that tell us why this woman is on this journey, right? And it's quite good. I really like how the style is set up. I really like the way that the storytelling is told, because even though it's this jump back and forth, it's not confusing, because every time the jump happens, it's immensely clear, and it's really well done. I really like that, because I read quite a lot of comic books, and some of them do this kind of system, right? This way of telling you the story, and they do it in a bad way. And I think that Skottie Young and Jorge Corona managed to make it happen very nicely in these really interesting panels here. So yeah, that's kind of the basic structure of the story. Now I'll tell you the backstory first, and then I'll tell you what happens as she's traveling, right? So the backstory is that Ryder is sick. She has about a year left of her life, and she used to be this very powerful, very badass, well-known outlaw. I think she was called like the something Ridge Rider, right? Like Revolver Ridge Rider. So you have to have that alliteration, right? That RRR sound at the beginning of every part of her title. And somehow she ended up having this guy, Darius, conquer her heart in some way. She fell in love with him, and they decided to settle down. She has a child with this guy. I can't remember her name. I think her name was Joey. And this girl is young. I can't really tell what age, maybe 5 or 6. She's about to start school, so around, a slightly older than kindergarten age, right? Probably like 1st or 2nd grade kind of age. And she has this sickness. She's coughing up blood, and it's really hurting her family, right? And because she was an outlaw, I guess she knows something, and she decides that she has to take a journey down to the city of Cyprus. Now, I don't know why they called it that. Probably because it's kind of Greek sounding. So she decides to go on this trip. Darius doesn't want her to go, and he kind of does a little bit of a trap here, where he gets her to say something mean as her daughter hears, in order to have the daughter cry, so that Ryder is like emotionally fucked up by this, so she doesn't leave, right? But Ryder is like, no, I have to go, because my time is running out, and if I go and do this thing, my time will never end. And it's really confusing why that is initially. And then she leaves, and Darius and Joey are left crying and sad. And she tells them, hold the place in my heart, or in your hearts, for me, for when I come back, right? But it might be, honestly, probably will be, that she doesn't ever come back, right? So that's kind of the end of the backstory. Then we transition to what actually is the beginning of the story here, where Ryder has been on this journey for a while now. At this point, she ends up talking to her horse. She's like, there's something up in front of us. Do you think it's a trap? And the answer is, the horse can't talk, right? So he doesn't answer her, but the answer is no. And so she goes up to this wagon that is broken, and she picks up this doll that she found on the ground. And this little girl, very similar in age to Joey, says, that's mine, right? And so in this dangerous situation, Ryder points her gun at the little girl, and the little girl and her have an exchange, which is when you have the first flashback moment. And then this girl's mom shows up with a rifle, stands behind Ryder, and she's like, take whatever you want, just don't hurt my daughter. And Ryder, again, is reminded of her own life, and so fights this woman that has a gun pointed to her, right? The woman and the little girl are huddling together in fear of Ryder's gun, and the little girl, being very brave, tells Ryder, you can take my doll, just don't hurt my mom. And this really affects Ryder, and so she throws the doll on the ground and leaves. And so she continues walking off, right? And so she continues on her journey. Later, we get to see her going through a bunch of different places. We get to see this really awesome scene that I'll show you on the video now. I took a screenshot of it, and it doesn't look correct, like the coloring is off, but on paper it looks amazing. And it's the shot of these Native American looking people on this like mesa overlooking where Ryder is going, and they're just like looking at her like in case something's dangerous, and it looks really amazing. And then she ends up by this creek, and she's kind of falling asleep, and when she does, she starts hearing music, and this music is then followed by these blue, or kind of like light blue, kind of white spirits, and this guy who's saying that he's the beacon to them, that the water is calling them home, that they came from water, and that they will go down to water. And all of these people are all of these ghosts are walking into the creek, right? Into this water. And along the way, Ryder is being pulled, and she's freaking out. She's like, my time has not come. Why are you taking me? And then the beacon says to her, if the water calls you, it doesn't matter if your time is over or not. It's time for you to go. And she struggles. She tries to move away. She ends up almost drowning, and then comes back up. And then she starts pointing her guns and being like, get the fuck away from me, right? And then she realizes that she's alone, that she didn't see anything, or that there is nothing there. But this was an amazing scene. It reminds me a lot of of that one scene in the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie where they're coming back from the underworld when they go get Jack Sparrow, and they come back and Elizabeth sees her dad, right? Like, it has that same kind of vibe, and it's really great. I really like this scene. She talks to her horse. She's like, dude, you got to make sure that I don't go crazy, which is funny because she kind of already is, right? Through this desperation and this horrible kind of like sleepless situation she's finding herself in, just this constant writing and writing and writing. It's really desolate and really sad, but it's so beautiful looking. Like, Jorge Corona did an amazing job with this, and the paneling that shows all of these moments of her going and walking and struggling through this vastness of this unclaimed land is amazing. It's really, really great. And then she passes this tree. It's two trees that are kind of bending out, and it matches the encryption on this coin that she has about the city of Cyprus. And then she continues past it. And then there's a moment where the horse no longer wants to walk. And she's pulling it and she's hoping that it will follow her. And the horse just says no, or doesn't move. And so she eventually realizes what's going on. She says, okay. She kisses her horse's head and tells him to go back. And she moves on and continues walking by herself. Until finally, she gets to this little ghost town. And she encounters this pile of stuff. And she tells the thing, hey, I want to go into the city of Cyprus. And this thing responds, that is a heavy toll. It's unlikely that you'll be able to pay it. And she says, no, I can't. And she pulls out 2 coins. And these 2 coins are these silver coins that have this encryption of the city of Cyprus on them. And she pays the thing. And then this thing kind of lumbers up into a person with this giant baggy thing. And this is kind of like Chiron, right? This is the person that leads her into the underworld, basically, because it asks her, you know, why are you here? You're alive. You don't have any reason to be here. And she's like, well, I found myself in a difficult situation, and I think that the best way to deal with it is to kill Death himself. And she ends up in this, like, weird mesa city that's, like, backwards with this black sun in the sky. And it's really amazing. This is also a great shot. I will not show it to you, but I will show you the one with the Native Americans. You should have already seen it. And this is the end of the story here, and it's so badass. Like, I really loved this book. I think it's really great. I'm very excited about this. I have no complaints whatsoever, but I do have kind of an interesting kind of concept here, or an interesting kind of thought here, which is, what was the point of making this a double-sized book, still charging twice as much as it normally costs, right, or slightly less than it normally costs, and making it a 5-part series if you basically already have two issues here, right? Like, this is actually a 6-part series that they just kind of reshuffled into 5, right? And I wonder about why that is, but I think it's because this whole issue is a single story, right? Like, there really is no natural breakpoint where you could really divide it into 2, right? And if you did, you probably would end up with like 30-something pages in one and then 12 in the other one. Something like that. It would be kind of uneven. So I guess that's why they were just like, okay, let's just make this double length and make it nice and big and kind of take some creative liberties with the paneling to make all of these pages work out into this double size, right? It's not really a complaint. It was just a thought that I had, and then I answered my own question. So there really is no point in kind of talking about this anymore. But if you have not picked this series up, I recommend you do, because it's wonderful. It's amazing. The artwork is fantastic. The storytelling is great. The vibe of it is really good, because Westerns are a quintessential American entertainment genre, right? And yet they're pretty unloved nowadays by the average American user, right? By the average American consumer or person, right? And this is managing to hit on all of those interesting tropes and cliches of the Western without being old, without feeling like this is beyond, like, from many, many years before our time, right? This feels very modern. And it's very cool. And there's a lot of elements here that are great. So I really recommend you guys check this out. If you like the video that I made. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the series if you've read it. And thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And see you guys later.